2 for Glenn, who is still out sick today. 888-727-BECK, 888-727-BECK. RNC convention really gets rolling today. Good lineup of speakers, good lineup of stars playing, like Three Doors Down tonight. Chris Christie speaks tonight. And anchoring the GBTV coverage, we're really psyched about this, is Edie Hill, formerly of Fox News. I'm sure you know her from Fox and Friends. And she's, of course, worked at CNN as well and WABC, I believe, in New York City. Edie, welcome to the Glenn Beck program. Hi.
Hey, thanks so much. I wish you were here with me. I feel like I'm at you walk in the stadium and you think you've bought 50-yard line seats and instead you're on the 15. That's kind of where I'm positioned right now. What I realized is if I were from American Samoa, I would have a much better seat.
Well, we're still a young network here. We're lucky they let us in the building, to be perfectly honest.
Hey, wait a second. I'm telling you, I think that the coverage tonight is going to be fantastic. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm really, really excited to hear Governor Christie speak. And I'm also excited to hear Ann Romney speak. You know, I've just kind of got a taste of what she's like, but I personally have never heard her live. So I've watched her on TV, but I've never seen her, you know, and I'm wondering just kind of how she, you know, translates to a huge crowd like this.
Well, she's incredibly lazy. She's never worked a day in her life. And
that's right. We've heard of that.
Yeah. So I
yeah, those stay-at-home moms, you know them. They never work, do they?
Yeah, Ann Romney actually
day of my life was that day.
She came on the show a couple of years ago, actually, and spoke with Glenn. And I found her to be really genuine and really likable. And I'm not surprised that they're, you know, obviously she has this sort of primetime location because, you know, Mitt Romney has struggled a little bit with the likability factor. And I don't think Ann is going to have any problems as far as that goes.
You know, and honestly, I don't get that because I've been with Governor Romney a number of times and talked to him in depth. And he is just he's just the sweetest guy when you're just hanging out and chatting with him. He's always bragging on his kids. He, you know, obviously adores them. Good family man. And I've always been sort of curious why that part of him doesn't come across, and it's more the aloof, you know, perfect hair guy that does. But you know, Ronald Reagan had great hair too, and he overcame that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's part of it. I think is just the connection factor, maybe. In that, like yesterday, he was talking about how the Obama campaign had been attacking a lot, and he said everyone else would say, well, you know, this you know, it's out of control or whatever. He said it was a vituperative campaign.
You know, and I still haven't looked that word up yet. I had that on my to-do list. I guess. But I think Paul Ryan will certainly take that edge away a little bit. When I first got out of college, I lived up in northern Minnesota and covered Janesville was one of the areas that I had to, you know, drive to in this vast coverage area. So anybody who can, you know, I think grow up there certainly knows how to communicate to anyone else in the country. He's got to be, you know, just completely down to earth and low key.
Edie, who are you looking forward to the most hearing during this convention? Who do you think is going to bust out coverage wise?
Well, I mean, obviously Ryan, but I'm really interested. I always like the people that either are going to make or break their future. You know, Bobby Jindal is going to have a difficult time if he ever is able to get over his big speech.
I don't think he can.
Yeah, I don't think he can either. And so I am really looking forward to hearing Chris Christie, not for what he's supposed to say, but for what he says that he's not supposed to say, because he is obviously well known for that. And I think that this is going to be a defining moment for him, honestly, on this stage.
I'm kind of excited to see Nikki Haley on a big stage like this because she seems really promising as far as, you know, conservative thought goes. You know, she's obviously young, she's attractive, she's a governor of a state, and I wonder, I mean, you know, does she have a buzz going into the convention, Edie?
You know, honestly, well, we're in here, and at this point, it's just the folks who are setting up the nuts and bolts. So you really aren't getting that as much. And where we are staying, we've got the Texas and Louisiana delegation. So basically, it's a lot of partying and glitter at this point. But I think that when you talk to other folks about, when we were leading up to the convention, that was one of the people that they were really looking forward to. And it has been. I mean, well, take Barack Obama for example. It has been the place where you see the future.
Right.
And so I think that when you watch the convention, that is probably one of the more important things you should watch for. Who's the future? And that I do think is frequently determined at these conventions.
One of the things we've been speculating about this morning is they've got some sort of open slot that they have kind of attached a mystery to on Thursday. That they're alluding that it's
no idea.
No idea.
No idea.
So you haven't heard any rumor of who that might be then?
No. But I'm pretty good at ferreting those things out. So we'll work on that.
Good.
Yeah, but it is interesting. If people haven't been to a convention, the way that it is set up is always fascinating to me, and it is frequently adjusted at the last minute, determined by who's being persnickety at that moment, if I can use that term, or who's just being a thorn in the side. And so right now, I'm looking down on the convention floor, and as I alluded to, you've got American Samoa up front, not quite center, but right up there. And Kansas is way in the back. Minnesota has been pushed back. Maine's been pushed back, and that's because of the Representative Paul issue, and they're afraid that they're going to be disruptive. And I recall it in '88. It was Illinois that was being punished at the Democratic convention because they were, we want Jesse Jackson. He was number 2 on the ticket, and they were determined that they were going to make a stink and a scene during the convention. So they were pushed back against the wall, and so that's one of those things that you don't see or frequently hear about on TV.
Yeah.
But it's what goes into this. You want to present that unified front, and if anybody steps out of line, that's it. Back of the classroom for you.
That's funny. I guess that's very typical, and I guess it goes on at everybody's workplace, but it's a sort of the side of politics that people don't really want to see. It's like that sort of infighting goes on and that sort of management of message, when I think the average American is talking more about these larger concepts of principles, economic freedom, and all these things that we think are so important, but really so much more goes into it.
And honestly, if it were me planning this thing, I'd want to have that kind of dialogue, and I would want it on TV. I think by the end of the week, of course, you want that unified front. But right at the beginning, get some color going. Get a little infighting. Show what it really is about, and that is about wheeling and dealing and throwing out ideas and trashing what you think is bad and embracing what you think is good. But that's how we come up with these things. And so I personally would love it if somebody did throw a spitball today.
A little celebrity boxing going on stage.
Really,
that's a way to open the convention.
It works for some networks.
So are they trying to wall off the Ron Paul supporters, or are they trying to keep them away from the stage?
Really, they're just pushing them back. They're pushing them way back.
Yeah.
So, for instance, Guam, it has been moved up.
Guam.
And it's the states where he has a lot of support that's they're being pushed back.
Yeah.
They obviously are being allowed to attend, but they're being pushed back. However, that's something I'd probably look for if you like a little more of the color commentary and the colorful aspects of a convention. That's something I'd be looking for in the background. Over the past the upcoming nights.
Talking to Edie Hill, who's anchoring the coverage for GBTV, TheBlaze, tonight and all throughout the convention at the RNC. Have you had any sort of idea yet, any vibe on how the Republicans plan on handling this convention if Hurricane Isaac becomes a bigger deal than it now seems that it is? I mean, is this something they're going to be able to handle? It's really a sticky situation.
It is. However, I think it's a stickier situation for the Democrats than it is the Republicans. They're here. Had it hit here, then you've got a huge issue. But I think that it is so far-reaching to take that and say, oh, it's going to bring everyone's mind back to George Bush and to Browning and everything else. I mean, give me a break. We've gone through other storms since then. And while that certainly is something that comes up in your mind, I think it is a much bigger issue for Democrats to figure out how to deal with this, because then does the president continue politicking as usual? Even Joe Biden, does he continue doing that? Or do you have to pull back and do your job?
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing about Jindal. I mean, he's obviously not coming to the convention, and he's
right. Appropriately so.
Yeah, he's done a really good job in these crisis management situations and has been praised, widely for it in his state.
Well, a heck of a lot better than was done before. Yeah. If you're going to draw a contrast, that's the contrast you should draw. Mm-hmm. The way different governors have handled a situation, almost identical.
All right. Our coverage tonight, 8
Yeah.
p.m. with Edie Hill at the Republican National Convention in Tampa, Florida. Edie, thanks for joining us. Good luck tonight.
Great talking to y'all.
Appreciate it. 888-727-BECK, 888-727-BECK on the Glenn Beck program.